I would like to brush up what I have told you in the first session. We spoke about the research problem, the title, how to select a title. While selecting the title for a project work, some important points are to be considered by you. I have already explained it to you, so I'm moving very fast during this stage. Remember, the title must convey the research problem. That's a precondition, an essential condition for a good research title. And another very important point is that there should be a link between the overall objectives of your study and the title you have selected. That means once a person see the title of your study, they should be able to understand what should be the primary objective of your study. That is the most important condition to be satisfied. So the objective should be framed in such a way that it can convey your research problem, and at the same time it can speak about the overall objective of your study. So naturally people ask how many objectives we need. Usually I have already told you, number is immaterial. You don't want to worry about it. The study should be researchable. The objective should be researchable. That is the very important thing. And I have already spoke to you about the basis of framing the objectives. The objective should be directly related to research problem. It should be directly linked to the title of the study, and it should be based on the research gap identified. And it's also very important to see that the objective should deserve real research to address. The objective should deserve real research. So these are the most important points to be considered while making objectives. Always remember, the objective should be related to the problem stated as well as the title of the study. Now, regarding significance, I have already told you. Review of literature, I have already spoke to you in detail. What is the significance? And what kind of literature to be reviewed? Quality, research papers, and research books, or the reports of apex institutions are to be read by researchers to identify the research gap. And what kind of reading is required? Once again, I would like to stress this point. What kind of reading is required? Because while going through standard research articles, you, the beginners, may not be able to understand exactly what is written in these research papers. You may not be able to understand everything stated in the research papers. So you have to have a strategy. You need a strategy how to go through or how to complete the review. During the initial stages of reading, you may not be understand something mentioned in research papers, especially the discussion part of the research paper may not be understandable to a person, even a person having MCOM or even MPhil. So you remember, always remember, you should be patient enough while reading. First of all, you have to go through the introductory part, the review of literature part, the conceptual part, the methodological part, and so on, where you may not face much difficulties. While reading the discussion part of a good research paper, you should be very patient. You should sit with a book and a pen. While going through the research, the discussion part of the research paper, you please write down the tools mentioned there, the terms mentioned there, which you do not know. Sometimes you may not be knowing about the tools they have used for analyzing the data, because we have studied only a small part of the quantitative techniques. We have to learn a lot. So you have to write down the tools mentioned by them, the terms, important terms mentioned by them for interpretation, and you try to understand how they derive some conclusions regarding the major findings. From the analysis, they may be able to, or they will be deriving some conclusions, or they will be coming to a finding through a particular channel in a particular way. You have to identify that. So after reading a particular article, you may have a list of terms, you may have a list of tools which you do not know. So you need further inquiry about that. If you are genuinely interested in research, you try to identify what the meaning of that terms, or go to YouTube and try to find some valuable videos regarding such tools, so that you will be able to understand. Definitely, you will be able to understand for what purpose such a tool is being applied, what is the underlying principles, what are the preconditions for doing such a tool. You will be able to understand all these. Only thing is that you should spend time. You should be patient enough to learn more and more. Then you will become a different person as far as research is concerned. So the type of reading is very important. Now, regarding the outcome of research, the primary outcome is the identification of research gap. For what purpose we are doing research, review of literature is to identify the research gap. That is the fundamental objective. But at the same time, we are reading a number of articles, number of reports for something else. So other important outcomes, expected outcomes are, I have already told you, while doing a proper review of literature, you will be familiar with the theoretical, you will have a very good theoretical base in the area in which you are dealing with. Say, for example, if you are studying about the customer trust with respect to internet banking, customer trust is a very big area where a large number of management researchers have done a lot of work. There are some theories, there are so many books related to that particular phenomenon. So while doing the review literature in that area, you will be familiar with the theoretical concepts, the interrelationship between variables, and so on. So familiarity with the theory of the core discipline in which you are doing research is a very important aspect, very important factor determining the success of the research. So review literature will help you to have a good understanding about the theoretical aspects of the concept in which you are doing research. Another important thing is you will be familiar with the type of research done in your area of work. Okay, you will be familiar with the type of research. What kind of researches have taken place in your area? Since you have gone through a large number of studies, you have gone through the bibliography of given in different works, you will be able to understand what kind of studies are being undertaken by people across globe. So naturally, you will get some ideas regarding the study to be conducted by you. It's very important. If you are a serious researcher, do that. Read all references. The title of the study will be there, so that naturally you will get understanding about in what way people are doing research. And you remember definitely after reading a number of articles, you will be familiar with the methodology to be adopted, methodology adopted by great researchers in the area in which you are working, so that you will be able to come up with your own methodology. Once you are familiar with the methodology adopted by researchers, then you will be able to come up with a methodology which is most suitable for your study. That's a great advantage of the review of literature. Another thing is that you will be familiar with the tools of analysis. I have already told you just now that while going through that discussion part, you will definitely find some statistical or mathematical tools applied by researchers, which may not be known to you or known to me. While going through works, even now, I find some statistical and mathematical tools which are not known to me. I can identify now, even now. So I used to search this in YouTube. I used to visit the websites of different eminent personalities related with these specialized areas. So you can also do that. Then you will be able to familiarize with the style of reporting, how people are reporting. So for example, if you have a statistical table, how to describe the findings from there, how to report the findings based on a statistical table. That is important. Very, very important. While reading articles, you will be able to find how great people reported. So naturally, you will get a good understanding about how to report things. You should keep these points in mind while reading. You should be eager to identify the style of reporting adopted by good researchers. Okay, then after doing a good review of literature, what are the outcomes or what will be the benefit of doing a good review of literature? That's very important. I have already told you all of them, but I would like to conclude this. What will be the post-review position of a researcher? Post-review position means the difference between pre-review and post-review as the researcher is concerned. The understanding as well as research understanding is based on what you have gained through the review of literature. Now, after going through the literature, you have the research problem with you because you have identified the research gap. You will be able to write down the research problem. And since you have research problem with you, very clear research problem with you, you can finalize, definitely you can finalize your objectives. Okay. Once research problem is there, that's in descriptive form, we have to raise research questions from research problem. The research questions can be converted into research objectives. That is the procedure. You are now familiar with all theories related to your study. All theories related to your study. You are familiar with. But you remember, in some cases, you may not find some strong theories related to the area in which you are doing a research. Sometimes there may not be strong theoretical base related to the area in which you are studying. Say, for example, I have in the last session, I have told you about a study regarding the asset quality, the linkage between asset quality and stock price movements of banking companies in India. Remember that you try to conceive fully the topic I have suggested. It's a very good topic, can be done by at PG level or MPhil level. Okay. The study is the interlinkages between asset quality of banks and the stock price. The asset quality of banks and stock price. We know that there are different banks in India. The question of asset quality came into existence only after the financial sector reforms in India. The concept of asset quality came into India, or it became applicable to India only after introducing the asset quality norms like non-performing, identification of non-performing assets and so on. This happened only after the implementation of financial sector reforms in 91-92. If you go through the literature regarding the theoretical concepts, there is no well-developed theories dealing with this. You may be able to find some theoretical aspects, but I am speaking about the theories. There are no such theories dealing with asset quality of banks in any part of the world, because it is comparatively new figure. It is application oriented, not theory oriented. It is application oriented. So you may not be able to identify some strong theories in that line. So instead of theory, you have to study the history related to your area of research. What is the history related to your area of research? In some cases, you may be dealing with the history related to your research area. In some cases, you may be able to familiarize with the theoretical aspects. Okay, so now you know that what type of study you are expected to conduct. When I say about type of study, what does it mean? All of you have studied research methodology in detail. Okay, you have studied research methodology in detail. When we say about type of study, it may be the study may be an exploratory study or an analytical study. Sometimes we call it as an empirical study. So you have to identify exactly what is the type of study you are going to do. This is possible because of your review literature. Definitely, you know the methodology to be adopted. When we speak about methodology, especially for a PG student or for an MPhil student, when we speak about methodology of the study, what should be written or what should be taken into account? In the project, what is to be written under methodology? That means what should be taken into account while doing the study, especially for an MCOM student or for an MPhil student. Remember, as far as a project is concerned, the methodology part must definitely speak about the nature of the study first of all, whether it's an exploratory study or an analytical study, empirical study, and so on. That must be stated very clearly. And this part of the study must definitely state what kind of data you are using, whether you are using primary data or you are using secondary data or you are using both data for analytical purpose. Remember, always remember, the nature of the data must be very, very specifically mentioned. Okay, remember it. Then, if you are using secondary data for your analytical part, you definitely must state the source of the data, from where you got the data. The source may be a website, source may be a magazine or a book or an official publication of an apex institution and so on. Whatever it be, it must be stated. So, for example, if you are doing a study in banking, or doing a study in insurance, or doing a study related to capital market, there are some agencies which are providing data related to that field. If you are doing work in banking, definitely Reserve Bank of India, the official website of Reserve Bank of India and the official publications of Reserve Bank of India will be the most important source of data. If you are doing a work related to capital market, the official website of NSE or BSE will provide almost all information. So you can quote the website ID. And if you are doing something related to the economic development of India, there are some dedicated websites of the government of India representing various departments. They give statistical data. You have to quote it. Okay. You might have heard about CMIE. These publications and websites are actually the publications and the website of CMIE is giving a large number of macroeconomic data related to the performance of the economy. So you have to say exactly what is the source of your data. Then another thing regarding secondary data is the period of the data. For what period you have used the data. If you may be using data for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years and so on, you have to say from where to where your the data has been taken. Whether you are going for an annual data or monthly data, quarterly data or daily data, that also must be very clearly specified. Okay. If you are going to do your research based on primary data, then you have to say about what kind of sampling method you have adopted. Are you doing random sampling or some other variants? Exactly you have to say, and you have to come up with your research design. Definitely must state research design. And whatever be the nature of the data used, my dear students, you always remember, you have to say what are the statistical tools you have used for analysis purpose. The statistical tools based on which you observed or you found some you came up with some findings must be very clearly mentioned. So these are the things you have to state in the methodology part. And even when if you are a PhD student, remember beginners of PhD and beginners of MPhil, the scholars always remember. Always remember, with respect to the development of a research instrument, that is a questionnaire, there also some methodologies are to be followed by the researchers. That also must be very clearly detailed in methodology part. Okay. So, and you remember, since you have gone through or the discussion part of a number of research articles, you now know the tools of analysis used for different purposes. You students, you always remember, all of you have studied quantitative techniques, where we have studied the statistical tools like T, F, analysis of variance, then non-parametric tests, and so on. You may be able to score well in your examinations. But the final question is, are you able to come up with the right hypothesis for your research project? That is fundamental. Very, very important. That is the final test of your understanding about a statistical tool. You have to know exactly what kind of tool can be used and for a particular purpose. What kind of tool is to be used for a definite purpose? You must be very clear. Okay, when an ANOVA is to be applied, when a chi-square is to be applied, when a regression is to be applied, that must be known to you as a researcher. Then only you can suggest, or then only you can say that this kind of a finding can be derived out of a particular relationship. Okay, the tools of analysis. This is learned in different ways. The understanding about this is derived, or you reach at a particular position where you will be able to say this tool can be used for this purpose. You reach at this stage only after going through the different research publications of different people, and you have excellent books for reading about different statistical techniques. At the same time, there are a large number of YouTube videos where experts are explaining you what is the purpose of a statistical tool, how it is to be done, what kind of data you need, everything, how to proceed, everything is explained. If you are eager to understand, adapt all these, that means you have to read the articles, you write down the tools which you do not know, you try to understand the theoretical concepts of these statistical tools in some books. Say, for example, even if you are an MCOM student or an MPhil student or a PhD scholar, you, or if you are going to apply a survey method of or survey mode of research, you must read some standard books on multivariate data analysis. Multivariate data analysis. It's very important because we are actually not going to apply simple techniques like the T, Z, analysis of variance and so on in highly advanced studies. In a good study, you have to do some multivariate analysis tools. Then you need some theoretical understanding about that. Then only you can say that this tool is apt for this particular condition. So I would like to suggest to MPhil and PhD scholars to buy a copy of Multivariate Data Analysis by Hare, Anderson, Timothy, and some others. It's a very good book. The price of this book is ranging in between 500 and 600. So I think this is a very cheap book. That's highly useful book. It's written in a very simple manner, understandable to anyone who is having some basic understanding in quantitative techniques. Okay, so tools of analysis is also very important. Then, okay, this is what I have shared in the last session. Now we are beginning with something new. Okay, dear friends. Now I would like to speak to you about a research instrument, that is a questionnaire. If you are planning to do a research using a questionnaire, listen to this one. Usually a research instrument or a questionnaire consists of two parts. The first part of the research instrument will definitely seek information regarding socio-demographic features of the respondent. Socio-demographic features of the respondent. That means you will definitely ask about the gender of the person, age of the person, then number of family members in their family, then regarding their income, their occupation, and such other variables. So what all information you need, that purely depends on the nature of your study and your objective. Remember, always remember, there are some variables which are must, like gender, age, education, and so on. So many other variables may be required. What is required depends on what is your objective, how you are trying to link between variables. That is the primary thing. Okay. If you are not trying to, if you don't want to link your findings or your concept with the level of education of the respondents, then you don't want to ask such a question. If you are planning to link the aspect along with the level of income of the person, then level of income should be a question. So what is definitely included in the first part depends on your requirement. Okay, that's all. The second part of the instrument very specifically related to the objectives of your study. Very specific objectives of your study. What is your objective? What is the theme you are actually studying? It should be related to that. We are actually, I would like to explain something regarding technical aspects of a research instrument. You need some sort of theoretical understanding before making a research instrument. See, in the last session I have told you about a research project as an example. Do you remember? What was that? Regarding NABARD. Regarding NABARD. Role of NABARD in financial empowerment of rural women. Remember? The role of NABARD in the financial empowerment of women. Rural women. If this is the study, you need to measure the level of financial empowerment of women. Remember, you need to measure the level of financial empowerment of rural women. You want to measure. So, measurement is a very important thing. So we need to have detailed understanding about measurement as far as methodology is concerned. Measurement simply refers to the assignment of numbers or any symbols to characteristics of objects according to certain pre-specified rules. It simply refers to the assignment of numbers. You can give number, you can give some symbols which can represent the characteristics of objects. Say, for example, all of you might have gone to cinema theaters or convention centers where the urinals meant for women and men are differentiated using pictures. Picture of a lady represents that urinal is to be used by women. Picture of a male represents the urinal meant for gents, and so on. So characteristic is represented by picture. Can be represented by picture, or sometimes, or it can be represented by giving numbers. Say, for example, while making a questionnaire, your first question may be your gender or the gender of the respondent. In the question, you will state male, female, transgender, and so on. Okay? In the questionnaire, you will put the option male, female, transgender or others. But while recording this information from the questionnaire to your analysis table, you will give a symbol or you will give a number for male, another number for female. Sometimes male may be given 1, female may be given 2. These numbers 1 and 2 actually is used for representing male and female, the characteristics. The gender characteristics is represented by, hello? Hello? Interruption, please switch off the mic. Okay, the gender characteristics is represented by using numbers like 1 or 2. There you remember, these are only, even though they are numbers, these can be like pictures or can be used mathematically. So remember, measurement is simply assigning numbers or assigning some pictures, symbols for representing the characteristics of objects you are studying. So through measurement, or we will be able to measure the attitude of a person, the perceptions of people, preferences towards retail shops, or the satisfaction of a customer, dissatisfaction of a customer, the level of stress of a person. All these can be measured with the help of the numbers assigned. Generally, in research, numbers are usually assigned. We can use some symbols or we can use numbers, but you remember, in research studies, especially academic research studies, numbers are commonly used. Numbers are more popular because of 2 reasons. Numbers definitely permit statistical analysis of the resulting data. With the help of symbols, you may not be able to make statistical analysis. So numbers enable us to conduct statistical analysis. And at the same time, numbers definitely are good communication indicators or communication facilitators. The results of statistical data can be easily communicated with the help of numbers. That's why we are using numbers in place of pictures or something else. So normally, you remember, students, you remember, for measurement purpose, we use numbers. That's all. Okay. Now we are moving on to the concept of scaling. All the research methodologies MCOM students have studied about scaling. So I will be moving fast here. I will be speaking some practical aspects of scaling, not any theoretical. I'm not stressing on the theoretical aspects. So while listening to this, you should be able to understand what type of scale I can use in a particular situation. Okay. So let us take an example. We have so many e-commerce websites. Suppose you are studying about something, the acceptability of e-commerce websites dealing with a specific product or a specific range of products. Okay, remember, you students, especially MCOM students, listen to the examples I use while talking, while explaining these. These are very good thing for conducting your project work. If you are interested, you can take it up. Okay, what I say is, here our study is, you are conducting a study to understand the acceptability of e-commerce sites dealing with a particular product or a range of products or generally, and what factors influence the level of acceptability. Okay, once again, you are studying about the acceptability of e-commerce websites dealing with some products. That part you can add. And the factors influencing the acceptability. Okay, that is a study. So I want to understand the attitude toward an e-commerce site of the respondent. Attitude toward e-commerce sites. You are given a list of e-commerce sites like Flipkart, Amazon, and so on. Whatever e-commerce sites you know, you can put it on the left-hand side of your paper or questionnaire. What do you want to measure? You want to measure the attitude of people towards the e-commerce sites you have given. So naturally, we can classify the attitudes into different categories. I have 3 different classifications. For you, you may come up with 4 or 5 different classifications. For easy communication, I have suggested 3: favorable attitude, a neutral attitude, a unfavorable attitude, neutral attitude, and unfavorable attitude. These are the 3 different levels of attitudes I have suggested. The unfavorable attitude may be measured as 1. Whenever a person ticks as unfavorable towards Flipkart, that tick is counted as 1. On the other hand, if he tick on neutral attitude, it is taken as 2. If the tick is on favorable attitude, then it is measured as 3. So numbers are given in place of unfavorable attitude, neutral attitude, or favorable attitude. So assigning numbers for measurement purpose is technically scaling. So naturally, scaling is considered to be an extension of the measurement. Measurement is generally we are saying assigning numbers, and scaling refers to we are putting specific values for different levels. Okay. So see, you have already studied in your research methodology class regarding primary scales of measurement. I have quoted 2 authors in this field, 2 globally accepted authors for this. You might have studied something more. If you look at some statistical softwares, then you may find something different. But theoretically, for a global standard, I have quoted 2 people, Stanley S. Stevens and Srinivasan. These are 2 authors who have published internationally accepted articles regarding primary scales of measurement. One published in the year 1951 and the other published in 1997. Based on that, there are 4 different scales. One is nominal scale, another is ordinal scale, then interval scale and ratio scale. You have studied everything. A nominal scale is a figurative labeling. Numbers serve only as labels or tags. When you give or assign a number for labeling a something, we call the scaling as nominal scale. Say for example, when I set the gender of the respondents, we have three options like male, female, others. Male is given 1, female is given 2, others is given 3. These numbers 1, 2, 3 are just like pictures. They don't have any mathematical properties. Don't interpret these in mathematical sense. That means when I say male 1 and female 2, that doesn't mean male is first and female is second, or male is having more number. That doesn't mean. These 1 and 2 are just to represent something. Say for example, if you have completed 2 books for writing down the notes of quantitative techniques, you may give book number 1 and book number 2. Likewise, nominal scales are used for showing the characteristics. That is, these numbers will not have any mathematical properties. Mathematical properties cannot be applied there. Okay, then about ordinal scale. Ordinal scales are actually used to indicate the relative extent to which some characteristic is possessed. The relative, that means we are considering how far a particular characteristic is possessed by a person. You remember, for example, you are asked to rate a retail store or a retail bank or an insurance company or mobile phone shops in your locality. You are asked to rate. Suppose if you are asked to rate your preference towards the following retail, ready-made, textile stores in a particular locality. Say for example, in a town, there may be a large number of different varieties of retail textile stores. You are asked to rate them. You are provided with Reliance Trend, Max, a local chain store, a local single store, one brand store, and so on. Reliance Trend, Max are the original names. Chain store, local, I don't know exactly the name of the store which is applicable in your place. While making questionnaire, you are to include the original name of the store. Local single store also you are to give the original name. One brand store also you are to give. You being the person conducting the research, you are to give that. Then you are asking the respondents to rank these. I have given a ranking. I have given a ranking for communicating the purpose. So Max is given 1, Reliance Trend is given 2, chain store is given 3, one brand store is given 4, and local single store is given 5. Okay. So you remember this represents my preference. This only gives my preference. You don't want to think about or to imagine that Max is twice important for me than Reliance Trend, because it is 1 and 2. You don't interpret in a mathematical sense. We are giving the relative importance. We are simply ranking. That's all. Another ordinal scale. Another example. This is from England, English Football League. 2000. This is the original ranking of English Premier League 2018. Manchester City was got the first position. Manchester United came 2, Tottenham 3, Liverpool 4, Chelsea 4. This is from the official website of the English Premier League. So these are simply the ranking. Don't apply any mathematical interpretation for this. Okay, then another one is interval scale. Okay, in an interval scale, we assign different numbers for different purposes. Say, for example, if you are asked to rate your level of satisfaction regarding the range of your mobile phone, the range of mobile phone, you are asked to your level of satisfaction regarding the range of your mobile phone service provider in your locality, because this is the current problem you are facing. Sometimes you may not have good coverage. Sometimes you may have good coverage. So you are asked to rate the range. You are expected to rate the satisfaction on a scale ranging from 1 to 5. You can give 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. That means if you are extremely satisfied, you will give 5. If you have only moderate satisfaction, you will give 3. If you are not at all satisfied, you will give 1. Okay. That kind of scaling is technically known as interval scale. When you have a scale from 1 to 5, difference between 2 and 3 will be equal to difference between 4 and 5. That means the mathematical properties are applicable here. In an interval scale, the mathematical properties are applicable. Always remember, in nominal scale, the mathematical properties were not applicable or cannot be used, but here the mathematical properties of the numbers can be used. That means these scales can be used for statistical operations. Okay, then look here. In studying the preference towards a retail bank, you are studying about the preference of the customers or preference of the people towards retail banks. It is given on a 7-point scale from 1 to 7. If you are highly preferring that particular bank, you can give 7. If you are moderately preferred, you can give 4. Then if you are not at all preferring, you can give 2. So depending upon the level of preference, you can assign numbers. Okay. As a respondent, you will be assigning numbers on the basis of your level of preference. This kind of a measurement is, or a scale is, technically known as interval scale. Then ratio scale. The difference between a ratio scale and other scales is that in a ratio scale, we can add a 0 point. 0 can be added in a scale. Even 0 can be added. If you are applying a ratio scale, all statistical tools can be applied. That is the most important advantage. Commonly, we are applying ratio scales for assigning the level of income, the actual expenditure, amount of purchase from a shop, the weight of a person, the age of a person. These can be when original numbers can be put as data. Original numbers can be given as data. Then even 0 can be included, where all statistical operations can be done. That's a great advantage of this scale. Okay, we have seen actually 4 different scales: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scales. This is actually a comparison of how this is being used or for what purpose it is being used. Look at the nominal scale. I have given the names of some retail shops in America, United States of America. People in a survey conducted there by experts in the field of marketing, They have labeled the retail shops like this. Lord and Taylor is given 1, Mackay 2, MCART, Rich, and so on. This nominal scale, this is simply a label. Is there any difference between 1 and 8? Since in a nominal scale, you cannot apply mathematical properties, mathematical operations. So these numbers are simply labels or symbols, cannot be used for any mathematical operations. And in an ordinal scale, the respondents are asked to rate the preferences of these shops. Suppose if this is the ranking given by a particular person, particular respondent, these are simply my ranking about or my preference of these shops. And interval scale, people are asked to rate the same thing like this, but here people are asked to rate these shops on a scale from 1 to 7. On a scale from 1 to 7. Here, the numbers are assigned by a person. So normally, students may feel a doubt. What is the difference between this ordinal and interval here? Preference ranking and preference rating, what is the difference? In case of preference ranking, you can give one number for one retail store. That number cannot be repeated. You can give first rank for only one shop, second rank for another shop. The two cannot be repeated. But in case of preference rating, different shops are there. You are asked to rate from 1 to 7. You can give 1 or 7 or 6 for more number of stores. There is option for that. Such a rating is technically interval scale. Then ratio. People are asked to write or to quote the amount spent by them in a particular week or in a month or in a year, in rupees or in dollar. Sometimes you may not have purchased anything from such a store, so you may put 0. Sometimes you have purchased for 5,000, you will put as 5,000. So this is what is known as a ratio scale. Okay. We have comparative, non-comparative scales. The scales used for comparison purpose. Say for example, if you are asked to rate Coke and Pepsi, compare which one is better for you. Then non-comparative, a particular thing is rated without comparison with others, is technically known as non-comparative scales. And usually comparative scales are, you have already studied these comparative scales. Major comparative scales are paired comparison, rank order comparison, constant sum, Q sort, and so many others are there. Remember, I don't want to explain all these. You have studied all these in research methodology, comparative scales. And non-comparative scales, we are not comparing. Non-comparative, we have a continuous rating scale. In non-comparative scale, we have a continuous rating scale, which is a graphical rating scale. The picture is given like this. A line is given and scale is also given. This is a 5-point scale from 1 to 5. 5 represents the best and 1 represents 1. That is regarding how do you rate the service quality of the front-end staff of your bank? How do you rate the front-end staff of the staff in your college, in office? You can rate. If it is worst, you will give 1. If it is best, you will give 5. So it is marked on the line. The numbers are actually given for, it is actually given for better understanding. In original research, these numbers are not given. You are assigning numbers after getting details. Okay. Continuous rating scale. Then we have itemized rating scale. you are to listen to this very carefully, because this is the thing we are going to apply in research. Okay, in an itemized scaling, people are actually provided with a scale that has a number of brief description associated with each category. Say, for example, if you are studying about the satisfaction of a particular mobile phone service provider, or satisfaction of the customers regarding customers of a bank, and so on, you know that you can directly ask how far you are satisfied with this particular mobile phone service provider, or how far you are satisfied with the banker. But that is not a scientific way of measurement, because you know that the satisfaction of a person depends on a number of factors. Say, take the case of a mobile phone service provider, especially this is relevant. If you are studying about a satisfaction, one thing may be regarding the coverage. Another thing may be regarding the speed of the internet provided. One thing may be regarding the tariff of the service provider. Okay, you got it. There are some factors very important in influencing the satisfaction. You are studying about a satisfaction, and this satisfaction is based on some factors. So you are to ask specific questions regarding all these. Then you compute the overall average level of satisfaction of each respondent. So in an itemized rating scale, different statements are provided, and the respondent is expected to give mark with respect to each statement, and the average score is computed. Such a rating is technically known as itemized rating scale. Then you commonly used itemized scales are Likert scale, semantic differential scale, Chapel scale, and so on. There are some other scales also. I am not mentioning this because I want to speak only about the most popularly used scale, continuous itemized rating scale applied by students doing MCOM, MPhil, and PhD. Mainly, we are using Likert scaling. So I'll be concentrating on that. Okay, Likert scaling. Likert scale is actually a 5-response category scale. 5-response category. That is, 5 different options are there. The 5 different options may range from -2 to +2. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, or from 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we definitely remember Likert scale is basically a 5-point scale. This is otherwise known as summated scale. This is known as summated scale because suppose you are having a sample of 150 respondents. You are asking a particular question regarding a particular aspect. Say, take our earlier example, the satisfaction of internet service provider, level of satisfaction of internet service provider. Suppose you have 5 different factors to determine the level of satisfaction, like the internet the coverage, speed of the internet, then the tariff, and some other items. We have 5 items are there for measuring the satisfaction. This is known as a summated scale because if you are asking you are asking a person or a respondent to rate these 5 statements, you will get 5 numbers. When you take the sum or total of the 5, you will get the level of satisfaction of that person. Okay, that's why we call it as a summated scale. Okay, you look at here. It's a scale used for, this is the model, this is given for understanding exactly how scales are being presented in a questionnaire. This is a scale used for measuring trust on internet bank. This is a real original scale used by Harris and Good 2004. They have published an article in International Journal of Bank Marketing in 2004. The original scale used by them. These 5 different statements are used for measuring the trust on internet bank. The statements, they have made these statements. How to come up with these statements is actually a complicated task. You have to learn more and more about it. I shall try my level best to say something about it, but that is not sufficient for understanding, having a proper understanding about how to frame scale. This is an adapted scale. Okay, even if you are doing a study on trust on internet bank, definitely you can copy this model and cite it. You can cite it. You may be able to make some slight modifications on these statements if you want. Then you can do it. Suppose if you are asked to rate these 5 statements, definitely you may say strongly agree or neutral in respect of each statement. Then definitely strongly agree here is assigned with the number 5. Agree is assigned with the number 4. 3 neutral is given for is assigned with 3, and disagree is assigned with 2. Strongly disagree is assigned with 1. It is not given in the questionnaire. It is known to the researcher. After getting response from the respondents, you are placing 5 in place of strongly agree, 4 in place of agree, 3 in place of neutral, 2 in place of disagree, and 1 in place of strong disagree. A person can make a tick in any one of the 5 columns. That is, if I tick agree in respect of the first statement, I cannot put tick in any other column. If I put strongly agree in the first column, I cannot put tick in other columns. So after completing this questionnaire, since there are 5 different statements, you will get 5 tick marks. 5 tick marks represents 5 numbers. You take the sum of the 5 numbers, you will get the trust on internet bank by that particular respondent. If you have 150 respondents, you will have 150 numerical values. If you take the average of that, that becomes the average level of trust on internet bank among the respondents. Okay, in that way we are doing research. Another example, the scale for measuring propensity to trust. Propensity to trust, it's a general psychological scale used by Consper and Cons 2010. They have published an article in an internationally acclaimed journal. This is a psychological tool used for understanding the propensity to trust by a person. It's general, not on bank, general. Okay, the chance to trust. Okay, then after making, I have already told you how to make a research instrument. Now we have to see, after making a research instrument, we have to check the reliability of the instrument. You have to check the reliability of the instrument. So what is reliability? How it is being tested are to be discussed here. Reliability simply refers to the extent to which a scale produces consistent results if measurements are made repeatedly. Suppose if a particular thing is being measured, We have already seen this. This is propensity to trust. If the measurement is done with this scale, what is the chance that it will give a constant or consistent result? Consistent result. That is what is technically referred to as reliability. And this consistency, the reliability consistency depends on, or it is being influenced by two things, that is systematic error and random error. And reliability is assessed by determining the proportion of systematic variation in a scale. We are actually trying to measure or to address the proportion of systematic error variation in a scale. Okay. We have different approaches for assessing reliability: test, retest reliability, alternative forms, internal consistency methods, and so on. Actually, these are being studied by first year MCOM students in your class. I don't want to tell you in detail. Okay. As far as internal consistency and reliability is concerned, the reliability of a summated scale in which several items are summed to form a total scale. That is, the reliability is used for assessing we are trying to assess the reliability of a summated scale. When there are 5 different statements or 6 different statements or 10 different statements for measuring a particular aspect, then the reliability or the dependability is assessed. For that, for assessing that is what is known as internal consistency. How consistent your measurement scale for the desired purpose. That is what we are checking. So there are two different internal reliability methods. That is split half reliability and Cronbach's alpha. Split half reliability and Cronbach's alpha. You remember, in our studies, we are using Cronbach alpha for testing the reliability. Cronbach alpha for testing the reliability. But even then, for understanding Cronbach alpha, we need to understand split half reliability also. So what is this split half reliability? Okay, you remember, you have 10 different statements for measuring a particular concept. So, for example, for measuring your satisfaction, or measuring your level of commitment, or measuring your level of trust. Suppose there are 10 statements are used in your instruments. That 10 statements are divided into 2 equal parts. That is, first 5, second 5. And then you compute the total value of the first 5, total value of the second 5. Total value means the total of the different numbers assigned in case of the first 5 statements, and the total of the values given to the second 5 statements, then in respect of each respondent. Suppose you have 250 respondents, you will have 250 pairs. You will have 250 pairs. The first pair will be representing the first 5 statements, and the second pairs will be representing the second 5 statements. So you can compute correlation of these two. That is the values of the first 5 and values of the second 5 given by all the 250 people can be correlated. That is what is known as split half reliability. So when you try to understand what is reliability, reliability is used by checking the correlation. Basically, in split half method, you are dividing the statements into two parts, and the scores are then correlated. Scores of the two parts are correlated in respect of all the sampled respondents. You will get a single correlation value. And looking at this, you can say how far these two are correlated. If these two are highly correlated, you can say that there is internal consistency. This scale can be relied. Okay. If the correlation is high, you can simply say that this scale is useful. This can be dependent. This can give reliable results. Another one is Cronbach's alpha. Cronbach alpha, simply in Cronbach alpha we compute all possible split half coefficients are calculated. All possible split half coefficients are calculated. And then the coefficient of correlation is then prepared. When I say about all possible split half, what are the different possibilities of split half? Suppose if there are 10 statements. I have, in case of split half reliability, I've told you that the first 5 and the second 5. Okay, there are only 2 halves. But in case of, if you want all possible split halves, means you can take first 5, second 5. Then you can give the first item to the last, first item to the last place. Then again you can take another split half. Again you can transfer the next item to the last. Then you can calculate the split half. Naturally, there will be a large number of split halves. You calculate coefficient of correlation. Now you know that the coefficient varies from 0 to 1. Definitely, the Cronbach alpha ranges in between 0 to 1, not because of Cronbach alpha, but it is because of correlation. Correlation can range between 0 to 1. Between 0 to 1. Okay, you remember that. If you are applying Cronbach alpha, there is a benchmark. It is 0.67. 0.7 means if you want to say a particular instrument as reliable, the Cronbach alpha should be minimum 0.7. There should be a minimum of 0.7 Cronbach alpha to say that the scale you are adopted is reliable. Otherwise, it is not reliable. For that, I have given 2 references. Note down these references. These are important. Whenever you you write about reliability of your research instrument in your methodological part, you can quote these citations. Churchill 1979, Nanoli 1978. They have proved statistically that a minimum 0.7 is required for ensuring the reliability of a research instrument. Okay, you look here. It's a real scale used for measuring the trust of a banker. Measuring the trust of a banker. You don't want to go through the statements. This is being made by me based on the literature review. What I would like to suggest is to look at 2 columns on the right hand side. Item to total correlation and the Cronbach alpha. In the Cronbach alpha, you can see one number in bold form, that is 0.833. What does it indicate? Whenever you see Cronbach alpha 0.88833, you are to compare it with the benchmark. What is the benchmark? It is 0.7. That means here the Cronbach alpha of the trust, the scale used for measuring trust, is more than the standard or more than the benchmark. That means this scale is reliable. It is having internal consistency. Okay, that is what it means. Okay, okay. Always remember the Cronbach alpha applicable to the scale should be more than 0.7, and at the same time you are to look at other Cronbach alpha values. This is actually Cronbach alpha if item deleted. This is actually given in, if you are doing a analysis in with the help of SPSS, the title will be Cronbach alpha if item deleted for with respect to statements. You remember, always remember, you have to check these values also. These values means you have to look at whether the Cronbach alpha with respect to statements are going below 0.7. If it is going below 0.7, that should be deleted. That should be avoided from measuring the trust. So since while going through this, you can see that all values are above 0.7. So all the statements can be used. And at the same time, you have to look whether the Cronbach alpha of any particular statement is exceeding the Cronbach alpha for the scale. Cronbach alpha for the scale is how much is the Cronbach alpha for the scale? It is 0.833. The biggest Cronbach alpha of the statement is 0.832. It is not exceeding 0.833. So all the statements are, or all the statements can be used. And you are also expected to look at the item to total correlation. Item to total correlation means the correlation of the individual, correlation of the values given the individual statements to the sum of the values. Sum of the values we have already heard. What is it? What it is? The sum of the values and the value of each statement is correlated. It should it should have a minimum of 0.3. Item to total correlation should be minimum 0.3, and the Cronbach alpha should be minimum 0.7 to ensure reliability. Okay. Of course, while while going through the works of some people, you may see that some authors are saying it is the Cronbach alpha minimum is 0.6 and so on. But I depend on the findings of most famous globally acclaimed researchers. That's why I'm saying benchmark is 0.7. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to me.